Alina Vasquez was exhausted. 16 hours into what was supposed to be a 12-hour shift at Mercy General, her feet ached and her scrubs were stained with coffee and antiseptic. The emergency room had been relentless, a never-ending stream of trauma cases that pushed every nurse to their absolute limit. But Alina never complained. She simply moved from patient to patient with the same quiet competence that had defined her 3 years at the hospital, invisible to most, essential to all. Her coworkers knew almost nothing about her. She was 32, spoke with a slight accent no one could quite place, and never attended staff parties or happy hours. Some thought she was shy. Others assumed she was just antisocial. The truth was something none of them could have imagined, and what was about to unfold in the next few minutes would leave the entire hospital speechless. I promise you, this revelation will hit differently than anything you've seen before. Alina was in the locker room, pulling off her scrubs and reaching for her jacket, when she heard the commotion. Heavy boots on linoleum. Urgent voices, the kind of controlled chaos that came with authority and purpose. She stepped out to find the hospital corridor filled with men in tactical gear, their presence transforming the familiar space into something from another world entirely. 6 Navy SEALs stood in formation near the nurses' station, their uniforms crisp despite the late hour. Hospital security flanked them, looking confused and slightly overwhelmed. The night supervisor, Patricia, was trying to understand what was happening, her voice rising with each unanswered question. Then the SEAL at the front, a broad-shouldered man with commander's insignia, saw his entire demeanor shifted. He moved toward her with purpose, and when he was 3 feet away, he did something that made every person in that corridor freeze. He stood at attention and saluted. "Ma'am," he said, his voice carrying absolute respect. "Commander Vasquez, we need you." The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia's mouth literally hung open. 2 nurses who'd been gossiping about Alina just hours ago looked like they'd seen a ghost. Alina's face remained calm, but something flickered in her eyes of recognition, a return to a life she'd deliberately left behind. At ease, Lieutenant Elena said quietly, her voice carrying an edge of authority no one at Mercy General had ever heard. "What's the situation?" "Multiple casualties incoming from a training exercise. Underwater demolition accident. We have 3 critical. The base medical facility is overwhelmed, and command requested you specifically. Ma'am, they said if anyone can save these men, it's you. Before this goes any further, if you're as stunned as everyone in that hospital, hit that like button. This is a story that needs to be heard." Patricia finally found her voice. "Alina, what is he talking about, Commander?" Alina looked at her supervisor, this woman who'd criticized her efficiency reports and questioned her commitment to the team. "I was a Navy diving medical officer for 8 years, she said simply, specialized in hyperbaric medicine and combat trauma. I left the service 2 years ago. What Alina didn't say, what she'd never told anyone, was why she'd left. The mission that went wrong, the SEAL who died in her arms despite everything she knew, everything she'd trained for. The weight of that loss had driven her to civilian life, to a place where she could heal people without the constant shadow of war. But these men, standing before her now, they were her brothers. Different faces, same sacrifice, and they needed her. "How long do I have?" Alina asked the commander. "Chopper lands in 15 minutes, ma'am." Alina nodded once, then turned back to the locker room. She emerged 2 minutes later in clean scrubs, her hair pulled back, a small go-bag over her shoulder that none of her coworkers had known she kept in her locker for exactly this moment. The bag she'd prayed she'd never need but couldn't bring herself to remove. As she walked toward the exit with the SEAL team, Patricia called out, "Alina, wait, will you be back?" Alina paused, looking back at the nurses' station, at the people who'd worked beside her for 3 years without really seeing her. "My shift starts again Monday," she said. "I'll be here." The commander opened the door for her, and as they stepped into the night, Alina heard him speak quietly. "It's good to have you back, ma'am, even if it's just for tonight." "It's good to be needed," Alina replied, and for the first time in 2 years, she felt the weight in her chest begin to lift. The helicopter waited on the roof, blades already spinning. As Alina climbed aboard, she transformed from the invisible nurse in stained scrubs to the combat medical officer who saved dozens of lives in the world's most dangerous places. She'd walked away from that life once, but tonight She was reminded that some callings never truly let you go, and sometimes the greatest act of healing is answering when your brothers need you most. Alina returned to Mercy General the following Monday, just as she'd promised. She worked her shift with the same quiet competence, the same humble efficiency. But everything had changed. Her co-workers no longer saw a shy, antisocial nurse. They saw a hero who'd chosen to serve among them, who brought the same dedication to a civilian hospital that she'd once brought to the battlefield. This story reminds us that everyone around us is carrying stories we haven't heard, living lives we can't imagine. The quiet person beside you might be the most extraordinary person you'll ever meet. If Elena's journey moved you, if it made you reconsider the people you've overlooked or underestimated, share this story with someone who needs to remember that strength doesn't announce itself. And if you've ever been the one carrying silent burdens, serving without recognition, know that your calling matters whether anyone sees it or not. Subscribe for more stories that celebrate the hidden heroes walking among us. Until next time, remember that the most powerful people in the room are often the quietest ones there.